In the dead of night, a whisper slices through the air. Unseen and unheard, it penetrates the world's most sophisticated air defenses. This phantom can deliver a payload powerful enough to alter the course of history, yet remain as elusive as a shadow. At $2 billion per aircraft, it's the most expensive plane ever built. How does a 50-meter wide giant become invisible to radar? And why does it look like it flew straight out of a sci-fi movie? Hey, I'm your host Regis, and today we're diving into the secrets of the B2 Spirit, the stealth bomber that revolutionized aerial warfare. From its Cold War origins to its cutting-edge technology, we'll discover how this ghostly giant changed the game of global security. The year is 1975. The Cold War is at its frostiest, and the game of nuclear chess between the United States and the Soviet Union is reaching a critical point. Picture this: squadrons of massive B-52 bombers poised on alert at strategic air bases, each loaded with enough firepower to level entire cities. These massive aircraft were constantly kept flying or on high alert, ready to get airborne at a moment's notice, forming a critical part of America's nuclear deterrent. Flying out of Shepherd Air Force Base in Texas, the routes varied by year, but in general, there were routes that went to positions over the Canadian Arctic, Alaska, Greenland, and the Mediterranean Sea. But there's a problem. The Soviets have been busy. They've developed air defense systems so advanced that they could swat these flying fortresses out of the sky like flies. As one Air Force general put it, sending B-52s into Soviet airspace would be like throwing a rock at a hornet's nest while wearing a bright red target on your chest. So what do you do when your unstoppable force is starting to encounter an immovable object in the form of an even stronger defense? You change the game entirely. Enter the Advanced Technology Bomber Program, or ATB. The goal? Create a bomber that could slip past Soviet defenses like a ghost, delivering its payload before the enemy even knew it was there. It was kind of like trying to build an invisible elephant, a seemingly impossible task that had engineers scratching their heads. But this wasn't just about maintaining military superiority. It was about preserving the delicate balance of power that kept the Cold War from turning hot. You see, the whole concept of nuclear deterrence relied on the ability to strike back if attacked. If the Soviets thought that they could neutralize America's bomber fleet, the risk of a first strike increased dramatically. Now, little did anyone know, the solution to this problem had actually already been dreamed up decades earlier, and then quite literally smashed to pieces. Let's rewind the clock back to 1946. World War II has just ended, and while most of America is focused on building cars and suburban houses, one man is obsessed with a different kind of construction. His name? Jack Northrop, and his vision? The flying wing. Imagine an aircraft that's all wing. No fuselage, no tail, just one sweeping aerodynamic shape. It looked like something out of a sci-fi magazine, but Northrop was convinced it was the future of aviation. In 1947, Northrop's dream actually took flight in the form of the YB-49, a massive jet-powered flying wing with a 50-meter wingspan. It was very ahead of its time, but there was a problem. Without modern computers to help control it, the YB-49 was about as stable as a unicycle on a tightrope. The Air Force wasn't impressed, and in a decision that must have felt like a gut punch to Northrop, they ordered all YB-49s destroyed in 1949. Yeah, you heard me right. These flying wings were all destroyed, which gives you an insight into the aggressive research and development approach of the United States Department of Defense. But here's where things get interesting. Let's fast forward again back to 1978. The Air Force initiates the ATB program, looking for a bomber that can penetrate the most heavily defended airspace undetected. And who wins the contract? Well, none other than Northrop Corporation. It's like the flying wing rose from the ashes, ready for its second act. This time armed with decades of technological advancement and a blank check from the US government, Northrop was poised to turn the impossible into reality. But how exactly do you make a 100-ton aircraft with a wingspan that's as wide as a football field invisible to radar? Well, that's where things get really interesting. Okay, first things first, we have got to talk about that iconic shape. The B2 looks like it flew straight out of a sci-fi movie, and there's good reason for that. The B2s are Jack Northrop's flying wing concept from the 1940s cranked up to 11. But this isn't just about looking cool. Every curve and angle of this bad boy serves a purpose. You see, unlike conventional aircraft with their distinct fuselages and tails, the B2 is essentially one continuous wing. This shape does two crucial things. It gives the B2 an incredibly low radar cross-section, that's stealth speak for really hard to spot, and it also provides excellent aerodynamic efficiency, crucial for an aircraft designed to fly halfway around the world without breaking a sweat. Now, let's zoom in on the B2's materials that give it its stealth capabilities. The real magic happens on the surface. The B2 skin is coated with top-secret radar-absorbent materials. These aren't your average paints. They're specially designed to absorb radar energy rather than reflect it. It's kind of like the B2 is wearing an invisibility cloak. A cloak made of materials so classified, I'd probably disappear if I told you about them. As you can see in this radar cross-section diagram, even the way the B2 is built contributes to its stealthiness. The aircraft's skin is made up of large, smooth panels with minimal seams, because every edge, every corner, every tiny imperfection could potentially reflect radar waves. Think of the B2's exterior like a sleek sports car. No rough edges, no sharp corners. Just, if that sports car was the size of a warehouse and tried really hard to avoid getting spotted by speeding cameras. Anyway, here's where things get really tricky. As we already mentioned, flying wings are not very stable. Without a tail, they tend to yaw and pitch, which basically means they just kind of tilt to the sides. To solve this, the B2 used a fly-by-wire system, which is so advanced that it's the literal definition of top secret. This computer-controlled system makes constant adjustments to the aircraft's control surfaces, keeping it stable in flight. It's so sophisticated that the B2 can pull off maneuvers that would be unthinkable for a plane this size. Imagine you're a radar operator and suddenly your screen just goes blank. Well, that's the Spirit in action. The B2 packs 4 General Electric F-118 GE100 turbofans, but good luck spotting them. These things are buried deep within the aircraft's body, with the intakes cleverly hidden on top of the wing. Why? Well, because nothing says, "Hey, I'm a plane," quite like a radar beam bouncing off a shiny engine fan blade. The exhaust is cooled and spread over a wide area at the rear of the aircraft, minimizing its infrared signature. It's kind of like the B2 is tiptoeing through the sky, trying not to leave any footprints. The airframe is made primarily of carbon graphite composite materials, lightweight, strong, and about as radar transparent as you can get without being physically invisible. The aircraft was built in separate sections, then assembled with the precision of a Swiss watchmaker. One tiny misalignment and boom, suddenly you've got a multi-billion-dollar radar reflector instead of a stealth bomber. When the B2 was finally unveiled on November 22nd, 1988, it was kind of like showing the world a glimpse of the future. As it rolled out of its hangar, you can almost hear the collective jaws hitting the floor. This was an aircraft that looked like it had been beamed down from a sci-fi movie, ready to rewrite the rules of aerial warfare. The technological array packed into this flying wonder was nothing short of awe-inspiring. With over 130 onboard computers controlling every element of the aircraft, the B2 wasn't just ahead of its time, it was in a time of its own. It combined a variety of techniques to achieve its near invisibility. Its shape confused radar, its materials absorbed radar energy, and its electronic countermeasures jammed enemy detection systems. This graph dramatically illustrates the B2's radar signature compared to conventional aircraft. The result? An aircraft with a radar cross-section 1,000 times smaller than that of the B-52, which on a radar screen would be kind of like trying to spot a pigeon. When the B2 made its maiden flight on July 17, 1989, it proved that all this fancy engineering wasn't just theoretical. This thing could fly, and fly well. It was the culmination of decades of work, from Jack Northrop's early experiments to the cutting-edge technology of the 1980s. The B2 Spirit wasn't just a new aircraft. It was a revolution in aviation, a flying testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. Now, let's talk about the capabilities and performance that this beast has, because in addition to stealth, the B2 Spirit is a highly capable asset made to carry out missions deep in hostile territory. First up, let's talk everyone's favorite, payload. It can carry 20 tons of bombs. Basically, imagine squeezing 10 sedans into its belly. And we're not talking about just conventional bombs here. The B2 is part of America's nuclear deterrent strategy. For your everyday, non-apocalyptic missions, the B2 can carry up to 80 500-pound GPS-guided bombs. That's precision strikes on 80 different targets in one single sortie. Or if you're feeling a little bit more ambitious, let's say, it can deploy specialized weapons, like the GBU-57 Massive Ordnance Penetrator. At 15 tons, this bunker buster is basically a small building that you can drop on other buildings. Kind of like the Air Force's way of saying, we don't care how deep you dig, we can still reach you. But here's where things get really impressive. The B2's range. On a single tank of gas, this thing can fly over 11,000 kilometers. That's like flying from New York to Moscow and still having enough fuel left to circle the Red Square a few times. And with aerial refueling, its range is basically anywhere on Earth. It's the kind of plane that can show up uninvited to a party halfway around the world and still leave before anyone notices. Now, you might be thinking, sure, it can go far, but is it fast? Well, at high altitudes, the B2 cruises at about 901 kilometers per hour. That's not breaking any speed records, but remember, this is a bomber, not a fighter jet. It's more about the slow, silent approach than the flashy flyby. Plus, it can reach altitudes of 50,000 feet. That's almost higher than Mount Everest times 2. It's operated by a crew of 2. A pilot and a mission commander. And these folks aren't just flying. They're managing a suite of state-of-the-art avionics and mission planning systems that are so advanced they're in a league of their own. And get this, if GPS goes down, the B2 can navigate using the stars. The B2 can operate in all weather conditions, day or night. Its advanced radar system, which has been very controversial, allows it to perform terrain forming and terrain avoidance maneuvers automatically. But how much does it cost to have this kind of bomber in your fleet? Each B2 costs about $2 billion per aircraft, which is more than the entire GDP of some small countries. That's billion with a B. To put that into perspective, you could buy about 5,000 average American homes for the price of one B2. So why is it so expensive? Well, it's a perfect storm of costly factors. For starters, the technology is cutting edge. We're talking materials and systems that probably won't be declassified until our grandkids are old enough to vote. Then there's the exclusivity factor. Only 21 have ever been built. Maintenance is another budget buster. That radar-absorbing skin, well, it needs to be reapplied regularly. And let's not forget about the constant upgrades. The B2 of today is far more advanced than the one that rolled out back in the 80s. It somehow managed to age forward, getting younger and more capable. But is it worth it? Well, that's the multi-billion-dollar question. Supporters argue that the B2's unique capabilities justify the cost. After all, how do you put a price tag on the ability to strike anywhere on the Earth without being detected? But even stealth aircraft can't hide from aging. The Air Force is already eyeing its replacement, the B-21 Raider, the next evolution of stealth technology. The B-21 Raider is to play multiple roles as an intercontinental strategic bomber and intelligence collection hub, hooked up to a larger network to make it the first sixth-generation aircraft of its kind. It's meant to be smaller, more affordable, and easier to maintain than its predecessor, which would allow manufacturing a much larger fleet. So, what do you think about the B-2 bomber? And would you like to learn more about the new advanced B-21 Raider? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you love learning about projects that push the limits of technology, make sure that you're subscribed to Megabuilds. As always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.